we're new to this. This is the Kiss
Oh
Tribute
wait,
World podcast. Hopefully, it's working.
it is. It's recording. It's
It's
recording. Upper
recorded.
left. I got it.
Yep.
Yeah, 13 seconds in.
I'm new to this. Please forgive me. Today we have Kevin as our first guest. Kevin Conrad. If you geeks out there, comic book fans like I was, this guy is a legend to me. He's amazing. But now he's going now. He's from the comic book legend to now into the Kiss tribute world. What I
Yeah,
did have
man.
about this comic book is it true that when you're an inker, are you really just a tracer? Or
Oh,
just
yeah, you fucker. So, yes, we've addressed this. I
I
haven't
know. I,
addressed this with you, but hey, man, honestly, some pencilers they want you to do nothing but copy the,
no,
trace the lines that are there.
I just had
So,
to bust your balls because I seen your
yeah,
artwork. So I just had to bust you because of that movie. You know it. You probably heard it a million
yeah,
times.
yeah, 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 it's a million times. Absolutely, I know it. But
I mean,
fuck you for bringing that up. So, yeah.
now, all right. Here's a question. What do you think about coming into the Kiss tribute world?
Dude, man, I gotta say, never in my life would I ever expect to be sitting here talking about being in a Kiss tribute act that's got like national attention. It's insane. It's just insane for me to think about. I've been, as you know, I've been a Kiss fan for nearly 50 years. And to think that this is what I would be doing now at in my 60s is crazy to even think about. Um, I love it, and first and foremost, I want to thank you for pushing me into this because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be doing it.
Right.
I had a cheesy. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, there's a great story. This how this started. Is Kevin
Yeah.
came in as a drummer in a Ace Frehley tribute band, and then we were
Yep.
also talking about putting together an unmakeup '80s '90s kind of Kiss tribute band. And Kevin
Yep.
and Dave, and I'm gonna probably mispronounce your name, Dave Barito.
That's
It's called
it.
part
You got it. Yeah.
spaghetti sauce.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
all right, for you, here it is. Is it makeup or no makeup? Not songs, just the whole presentation.
Um, there is a huge difference between the two, man. When we were doing the revenge thing with the non-makeup with the 80s and 90s, which I love. I love it all. You know that. Um, we tried our hardest, man. We had the wigs, we had the 80s, 90s get-ups and that kind of stuff. We tried to do a full-blown show, and it started to pick up a little bit of steam. Um, but the first time I put that makeup on for a show with you, and I believe it was the Strand Theater, and it was crazy, man. It was insane the difference in crowd reaction. You know what I mean? There's just everything about it, man. Like the crowd just eats up the the whole makeup thing, and we hear it quite often. When we do like meet and greets, and these people would say, "Oh, I saw you guys in '77," that other kind of stuff. Well, you didn't see me, that type of thing. But because they think some of them think like we're the real thing, which is nuts. So to answer your question, I don't know if it's a long way around Adam's barn to get to it, but it is a lot of work, man. To put on this production and the makeup and stuff like that. But once when I'm doing my makeup on my face, Ben, and you can probably test this too. You're looking in the mirror and you see before you start. And you start cutting in with the white makeup and stuff. And you and I do a little bit differently. Like I literally paint the white. I paint the white on and leave the negative space where where the fox black eyes are going to be and that kind of stuff. So you get the white on. I get the white on as perfect as I can get it, and I still see me. And now I got my hairnet on. So I don't have the long bushy hair. You know, and and then I do the orange around the eyes. Like Eric had. And still, it's starting to it's starting to take shape. And then I do the black, and I'll do the eye, and I'll do the surrounding eyes, with the ear, with the black fox makeup going down the nose, and my lips are still my lips, and I still see me, and then I just, I'll cut the lips in, and even without the curly wig, and I look, and all of a sudden you're a different person. You feel like a different person, and it's like holy shit. It's just a you know, I don't want to say a religious experience, but it's just really surreal. It's just such a surreal feeling. And then you start slipping into all the gear, and then I get the wig on, and all of a sudden, man, there are shots of me and shots of you, whether you're Gene or whether you're Ace. And there's shots of me. It's like I got to do a double take sometimes. So is that me or is that Eric? You know, and it's crazy. So I love the makeup. I love the makeup. I love doing it. I love the crowd reaction. Um, I love everything about it. It's a long ass day, but it's so worth it by the end of the night,
And
man.
in history, what we do is a little different than some other bands do it. I know Strutter does it in Kiss Army. But Mike Collins was coming in, he was talking to me about getting makeup. I goes, "Oh, you do that way with the Q-tips." And he goes, "Why do you do it
Yeah,
that way?" What did we say? I saw somebody doing it online. I can't remember when, but I said that's a good idea because if you mess up, it's easy to get rid of the line you made with the Q-tip. The black's
right.
on there. You got to take all that off for the thing. And it's a big, and then now, sometimes you don't know how long you got. You remember when we played in Yonkers, we literally, I felt like I was playing perfection, beat the clock, Now
No,
you guys
no
got
shit.
45 minutes. 45 minutes. Holy shit. Glad I wasn't playing Ace that show because it never took me 45 minutes. How Pat did it, I'll never know.
I know it,
That's why
man.
we have
That
aces
was a
out there.
record I threw. Yeah, it was
For
a
all the
record.
aces out there, Pasquale is probably I never seen somebody so his makeup job is so precise. Like
It
it's
is.
amazing. It blows my mind sometimes.
And it's so it looks just as good at the end of the show as it did when he put it on. I don't know. I don't know what his secret is. I end up my face melts by the end of the night. But you've taught me a ton, man. You're doing the makeup and stuff, and the setting spray and the powders, and I learned something that I don't know that this is not something that you've ever tried or anyone else. I use that damn. First off, I use an exfoliator now. I clean my face before I put the makeup on. I got the pads. I dip it
That's a
into
good
this.
idea. That's a good idea because
You
I'm
know,
Italian, so sometimes I get oily.
yeah. And I literally I clean my face, and then before I put any makeup on, I hit my skin with the setting spray. And then I do the white and then the orange and then the black. And it seems to hold up better for me that way, and hit it again with setting spray afterwards. So you learn little things as you go, man.
Right,
Little
absolutely.
tricks. Yeah, little tricks and get through it quicker too, that kind of thing. Have the right stuff. It's just like anything, like whether it's art, whether it's drawing, whether it's inking, whether it's painting, the right tools. You got to have the right tools. You got to have the right
I
medium. The right makeup and everything to make it work. You know,
I tell that
not
all the
like
time. The brushes, well,
yeah,
sometimes the brushes do all the work for you.
yeah,
The right
yeah,
brush.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, same here. Same thing here. But yeah,
Now,
I got to say, man, and again, just want to reiterate, man. I want to thank you for pushing me, even though you lied to me. Lied to me and Dave. We're only gonna do 4 shows a year. yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All
that was a
right.
line that's easing you in, easing you
Yeah.
into the world because it
Right.
is a crazy world. I mean, I'm so glad that when I started in '96, I went to see Hotter Than Hell at our Saratoga Winners, which doesn't exist anymore. The bathroom
Right.
still is there.
I know it's
And
still standing.
Scott McCluskey, I know it was McCluskey, and I know it was Peter French. I can't remember who the Gene was, but he was good,
Right.
and I can't remember the Paul. But they were so good. They had the energy, you know. Then I saw Strutter, and Strutter was really good too. But I had to give the edge to Harder Than Hell on back then. But I those bands they all kind of intertwined over the mid '90s.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah,
First one I
those
saw
guys
was
are
there too. Yeah.
yeah.
I
And it
saw
was
Kiss Army there. I think it was 89 or 90 there, man. And I was blown away, So
Yeah, see,
yeah, they were great.
I didn't get to see, I get to play with Kiss Army with Steve Clark, but I never got this. I didn't see them back then.
Yeah.
Starter came around all the time. Hotter Than Hell was always around. I remember that. But what do you think about? You've been in other bands, and
Yep.
it's so hard, and you're starting to realize this when you try to tell promoters and people you're talking to about, we need this, and we're not trying to be dicks. We need this,
Yeah.
we need that. We need, we need time. We need to do an early sound check. But what do you think about being in other bands you've been in over the years being in a tribute?
It is 180 degrees away from what we do. I've been in probably four or five like cover bands, rock, you know, hard rock cover bands over the years. I even did a non-makeup kiss thing with my cousins and a buddy about 15, 16 years ago, and but that was just street clothes, man. Just my at that time I had really short hair, but we would just go in and it was easy by comparison. You know what I mean? I mean, you still had to do your homework to learn the songs, but you would go in, you would set up quick and knock the shit out, and then and then get off the stage, and there was so much less involved. That with this thing, with this, it's just like it's almost like a stage production, like or like a play. Where everything's got to be in its place, and everything is it, and we're still old school. Nothing is timed. There's nothing programmed or anything like that. We still use the old school stuff. To whether it's you know it's the fog with the lights and that kind of thing is newer than what we had back in the back in the 80s and 90s. But I mean, it's still the same kind of process. It's not flame pots that kind of shit where you could kill yourself with, but it's still stuff that's got to be set off, manually, that kind of
And
thing. And you got to have trustworthy people working for you. You got to have the road crew, man. The road crew is so important.
you got to have them. A lot of them don't get it. But to the fans fans out there listen to this, in the tree world, when we don't do the fire, believe us, 120, 30, whatever percent you want. It's not because of us. We want to do the fire. We want to do all the things. We want to
Yeah,
have the sparklers. But some places they say no way. Other places are more lenient and they don't care.
yeah,
I still can't believe I used to do the fire and trick shots, and I used to literally watch it roll off the. But I'm using lamp oil. Lamp oil is not like using kerosene or gasoline, which if it lands on something, that's going to go on fire too. And lamp
right,
oil doesn't do
right,
it won't do that. Yeah. So
right.
but just people
And,
fans that
yeah,
are listening to this show, it's not because of us. Believe us, they have our hands tied with it.
yeah. And case in point, man, the venue we just played. You know, how many times have we played there? And they always let us use fire. Have Gene blow fire, right? And then we get there, big surprise, we can't blow fire there anymore. Why? We never burnt the place down. you know,
I've
you
done
know,
it thousands of times, and I never burnt myself. I never burnt anything.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that was disappointing, and I'm sure it's disappointing for the crowd too. But that being said, man, the crowd still seems
They're
to
the
love
ones
it.
that are,
So
they're the ones that are getting ripped off. I've always felt that way. They're always getting ripped
yeah,
off.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
here's a good one for you. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to put this one for you.
Ah,
Who was the first person? Because I know there's a good story behind this. Who was the first person you ever put the makeup on? What character was it?
me
Yeah.
or who did I? The first time I ever put this makeup on was I was 18, and it was Paul Stanley. I made the freaking costume. It was the unmasked costume, the jester with the tassels and all that other kind of crap. My mother helped me. My mother sewed, so she helped me
Which
make the
is
thing. I
probably
got
one of
clothes.
the hardest ones to make.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that was the first and the only time I ever tried anything. Never tried Peters. I never tried jeans or aces. The very first time, very next time, I should say, was with all you guys with the trial run. Once we Dave and I agreed to be in the band, and we were over Jay's house and we put that on, and it was pretty. Like I said, it was pretty remarkable and pretty startling. Putting that makeup on for the first time, and then
My
looking at
first
like,
time ever having the makeup on, the first time having it done was by a lady in the community center who was doing kids' makeup every Easter or every Halloween. And
yeah,
so I said, I brought a picture of the kids, the Gene solo album. And I said, yeah, I was 10 years old. I went
right,
home. My sister goes in. Mom's going to have a shit fit. I'm going to tell Ma you're as Gene Simmons because my mom was like the mother from Detroit Rock City.
right,
It was the devil's music. It
yeah,
was,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah. So that was the first time I ever had it on. But I remember when I had it on, it's just, you go right into the character. Like one time I was on Channel 10 News with Steve Caparizzo doing the pet connection thing. This is like maybe 2013 and whatever. And he goes, how long have you been doing this? Probably in my bedroom since I was like 8 years old. But my
ah.
old, I didn't have a guitar, I had a tennis racket.
Wow, man, yeah, that's crazy, man. Because like, yeah, it was weird. As big as a fan of now I'm older than you, so I was 14. When I discovered them with the first live album. So I was kind of past that point of you know wanting to dress up, as my heroes, so to speak. But it was a Halloween party. I was working for McDonald's, and we got to dress up as we cooked. And I picked probably the most flammable costume of them all, to make. But I got pictures of myself
It
behind the
is.
grill somewhere. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it was fun. Anyway, yeah.
I don't know why it gets a bad rap. I always like that costume, especially on the Tom Schneider show. It never bothered me. I always liked it. The color thing. Your
Yeah,
generation, for people
yeah.
who don't know, Kevin's generation was the generation that hated me. We were the little
Ah,
kids. We were the little kids
you're in
that were bugging
order.
you guys. For you guys that are 60s, 61, 62, 63, that's us. That was me. We
Yeah,
were the little
yeah.
kids buying the freaking lunch boxes and the baseball cards, and you guys were hating on us because it's not cool. It's not cool when you're a 17-year-old and your 8-year-old brother is a huge Kiss fan. It's just not going to work.
Oh man, no, yeah. Let me tell you, like I do have the entire first run of the Don Russ cards. I don't know how many cases I bought, to get that entire run. I could never get one card. It was a number that was the number two, and I think it was number two out of the bunch. And I mentioned something on Facebook like a year or so ago, and RJ Fowler goes, "Hey, I got an extra. I'll give it to you." And I went, "What?" So decades later, I finally got a complete set, of those Don Russ cards. But but yeah, dude, I wasn't a rabid collector, but I did have like, and now I'm reliving my youth again, in my jam room here. But my room was completely covered with Kiss posters, and if I didn't draw it, I pulled it out of a magazine, or I bought it at Spencer's, or it came out of one of the albums. And my walls were covered from top to bottom, my ceiling, that kind of thing. Not the room you want to bring a girl in if you want to get laid. That's for sure. Because you got to
Go
remember, I
where
was
you get
17,
paid.
18 years old. So, but but it was
Kevin's
I
jam
was
room is still my favorite jam room. I know Kevin's jam room is the dude with all the smoke in the basement with the smoke and the cigarettes. And he
oh
always
my
got
god.
bottles of empty can Coors Light beers. Sorry about
Start on airplane mode too. That shouldn't happen. Um,
we got airplane mode. What's that?
so
I haven't been in an airplane since
uh,
I got out of the army.
I see. I'm using my phone.
For people that don't know, I was in both armies. I was in the KISS Army first in '78, and then I joined the real army. I don't know if that has any
Yeah,
bearing or anything. Should I get some extra medals?
yeah, you should. You absolutely should. Yeah, yeah.
um,
But no, that jam room, man, that was disgusting. I couldn't. The smoke was. I'd come home. I go on the back porch. I would strip down naked on the back porch because you sweat when you play, and then the cigarette smoke would stick to you like
I
glue.
still love that jam room. I love that jam room. I love it.
Uh,
I love the jam room
uh,
part. It was great. I'm like, you had room.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. The places that we've jammed in just to jam is amazing.
Oh yeah,
Here's the question,
yeah.
man. You gotta get it. Favorite Kiss album?
Well, that's a tough question. Okay, that's a tough question. Um,
Do you have to be? Hey, we're back.
we'll stick a commercial in there. Yeah,
Kevin had a Subaru emergency.
yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, so very sorry. When you're Kevin Conrad, yeah. Sometimes you just gotta answer. I don't know. Anyway,
You know,
favorite
you
album. Like I said,
I left not to have to be able to live your deal, man.
so that's a tough one for me, right? I will tell you.
Yeah, the question was no. We'll go back. We'll set it all back up again.
All right,
Question
okay.
is, what's your favorite? Like I said, Kiss Alive. There's nothing beats Kiss Alive, so just put that on there. What's your favorite studio Kiss album?
Favorite Studio Kiss album, regardless of who was in the band, is Creatures of the Night. Okay, um, hands down, my favorite album. My favorite classic lineup is a toss up, the studio between Hotter Than Hell and Rock and Roll Over. Hotter Than Hell mainly because it's got Parasite on it. It's got some other, really badass songs on there. But that's tough, man. I can't pick this one. I might change my mind tomorrow too. You know what I mean? So
You
about what
know
my
me. I have a top five. I have a top five list for every category.
yeah, yeah,
It's easy for me. My favorite studio album will always be Rock and Roll Over because of Eddie Kramer
yeah.
produced it, and I
Can't
love
argue
Eddie
with that.
Kramer.
Yeah,
How he kept it rock and roll, you know, and plus he produced Hendrix. Hendrix
yeah,
is and, you cannot be a Kiss fan not be a Hendrix fan because Ace took so much from Hendrix style. It's It's
Oh, for
amazing.
sure. Yeah.
And then the aces, they know the ones that are out there. You have to learn the way Jimmy played, do that crazy, pull three strings down.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I'm in full agreement with Alive. The first live album, I don't really like Alive 2. I like the studio side. I don't like something about the production of Alive 2 that really bothers me. What really bothers me is the pace of everything, which is, I know it's funny coming out of my mouth, but everything is way too fast, right? I know, don't laugh, but it is. Everything's way too fast for me on that album, and I cannot stand Paul Stanley changed his affect and his voice to a southern drawl. With that, with that thing. Paul Stanley is the
that,
perfect
was that
frontman.
recorded at the summit? That was recorded at the summit, wasn't it?
I I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it's funny how he does that. Like he'll like whatever areas, then he'll try like a different affect. But the uh the first live album, that is to me the quintessential Paul Stanley. The raps, his command of the crowd, all that kind of thing. It's perfect. And I know the whole bullshit about it not being a true live album. That is the benchmark live album. I don't give a shit about it.
Well,
It's the
we all
benchmark live
know.
album.
Yeah, we all know we come down on a wrong note. Something happens. Do we have, for all you
Yeah,
bands out there, all you bands, you cover bands, you think it's easy. You put these 7-inch heel high boots on, do leg kicks, and have all that gear on, and then come bitch to me.
yeah, right,
you know,
right.
some of these guys I go see, they look like they got a baseball cap on, a fucking sweatshirt, fucking
I know
shorts.
it.
Look like he's gonna work for UPS.
I
Four
know.
dudes waiting for a bus. I don't know. I don't know how the hell they do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is definitely a whole different beast for sure. And people
All
make
right.
fun of Kiss's music and stuff, but it's not as simple as, well, yeah, some of it's simple. There's a simplicity to it, but there's some complex shit going on there.
Dude,
And then I have to
to
play
me,
this
there's
stuff.
nothing better. I get to dress up. I get to do makeup. I get to do art, theater,
Yeah.
music. I think it's the greatest thing ever. I'm biased, I guess, but I got some good stories for later on. But the last question, I know this one you hear a lot, and for the first time, you got your props. What do you think when people say, "Hey, why are you doing the fox and why are you not doing the Catman?"
So um, the way you just asked it, I have no problem with. Because it's like, hey, I'm curious, why the fox? Why'd you choose the fox over the cat? That I have no problem with at all. But when I see, like, and you know me, man, I got a thick skin. I've got a lot of shit roll off my back, and you see the comments once a. I'm lucky. I do get a lot of love, from a lot of people that I'm portraying an era of the band that's the band likes to seemingly like to forget about, right? But the actual band. But you get your people online, like, whatever, on social media, right? And you know what I'm going to say is, though, there was that one guy that he got under my skin. He just and it wasn't a real bad comment. He was just like, you know, what the hell tribute band has an Eric Carr over Peter Chris? He goes, no Peter, no Kiss, for me, right? So I had to
It's
respond to
fair.
that. Right? Yeah, I know, but I had to respond, and I was an adult about it and decent about it. And I just say, what makes you think if I chose Peter and I'm the same drummer in my skin and I chose Peter's makeup, it's gonna make the music better? You know, I'm still the same drummer, still playing the same tunes the same way that I do. And it's not going to make a goddamn bit of difference. We're a tribute band. We're not the real thing. You know, we're not Gene. We're not Ace. We're not Paul. We're not Eric or Peter. We're people who are portraying these characters because we love the band. So,
Well, I
and
think
besides, behind that big ass drum set, you can't even see me anyway.
well,
So
absolutely.
what
I
difference
try
does
to tell a lot of guys because there's guys out there, they're virtuosos or whatever the heck that word is.
it make? Virtuosos, yeah.
But with me, I've always been an actor, and that's what I love about it is the acting part of it. That you get to play some character, and that's why. And listen to me, if I can clone myself, I would be all four characters. But I suck at the drums. I've tried. I suck and I suck and I suck. But the first thing I ever wanted to do as a kid was be a drummer, and it was because of Peter Criss. But I just
Right.
loved the drums, and I love tribal drums, and I loved Alex Van Halen. Who like who's your guy that made you want to play drums?
Oh well, dude. I mean, you just nailed it. Don't forget, like I've been playing drums on and off since about 15 years old. Peter was my very first influence on the drum. I love the
I
guy.
was,
You know,
I was in kindergarten.
right? So I love the guy. I love his. I always did, but as you know, I had trouble with some of his stuff. Right? He's a swing style drummer. Um, and oddly enough, my grandfather and my uncle, my grandfather's son, they're both big band drummers. They were both like uncle still is. My grandfather's long gone, but so I grew up in a family of musicians and a family of drummers, and that kind of thing. And I chose rock and roll, and Peter was my first. So my biggest influences in the drums were from Peter Criss to Cozy Powell to you know John Bonham. Another dude, Barry Brandt, he was from a band called Angel. They were another Casablanca. That guy was just a killer drummer. And the list goes on and on, but those are the ones that come to mind. You know, right off the rip, Tommy Aldridge, another one. Um, and and of course Eric Carr. When you asked me to do this role, we were already, you and I and Dave were already doing the non makeup, full blown '80s '90s Kiss show, and I was portraying Eric with the chrome kit, and that's right behind me with the Chikara stickers, on the uh, on the drums. And when you asked me to join History too, because you wanted to resurrect it, and what I tell you, you know,
Well,
I'll do it.
it was coming down to people when you hear Kiss, the first thing out of everybody's mouth, everybody that any venue, theater, do they wear the makeup? And when you tell
Yes,
them no, they're like, "Well, no." I mean, it made it such a
right.
hard sell that I had to go back. Yeah, I had to do the makeup because I knew that that's what the people want in the end.
No, I get it. I do want to, we've talked about bringing this back, like as a support act, not to, and I would be happy with that, to
We had
play some of
kick-ass
this stuff.
shows as revenge. We had kick-ass shows, and you sold me on those '80s songs because you know me. You had to
Right,
sell me to it because I'm so old school. And
right.
Luke will tell you this too. I will stay for me. Kiss is 76, 75, 76. I don't think anybody could touch them. Nobody. They were just
I agree.
untouchable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So I
agree
mean,
with that.
you talked me into it, and I got into it, and I realized, few bass players out there, you realize it too. You can literally play all those '80s Kiss songs on the low E string. It's like Gene didn't give her a rat's ass. What was
uh,
on that shit? It was a joke.
yeah, yeah, a lot of catchy tunes though. There was a lot of real heavy stuff, with Eric in the band, um, you know, to get back to that, to get back to that whole thing, when you asked me to join, history, I said I would do it. But with one stipulation, and that stipulation was I'll do it as Eric Carr, not as Peter Chris, and you were cool with it. You didn't fight me on it. You said, yeah,
You,
man, whatever you want to do.
what
know?
people don't understand, my mother was a church school teacher, so I was always fighting to see Kiss. I asked my aunt to watch Kiss. Was on HBO. And it was 1980. It was from Australia, and that was my first time ever seeing them live. And Eric was the drummer. And you know what? I said, you know what? I thought it was better because it was more rocking. But so I didn't have a problem with him. I love the character. To me, my favorites were always will be Ace and Gene. But
Right.
I loved Eric, so you weren't going to get no complaints out of me.
Yeah, and you know what? And this is not blowing smoke. When he finalized his makeup, with just the direct black and white with the silver on the tip of his nose or on the underside of his nose as a nod to Peter. Um, he fit the band. Look at the Creatures of the Night cover, man. It fits. That makeup fits. It worked. It worked with the band. And the Creatures of the Night outfit. Come on, it's like, okay, you go, all right, we're gonna do Love Gun for the next show. The Love Gun costumes, right? I go, okay, what am I wearing? I know what I'm wearing. I'm wearing the Creatures, black and silver, man, black and silver. Okay, we're gonna do 76 Kiss Destroyer. What are you gonna wear, Kev? I'm gonna wear the Creatures costume, man, and
What are
it
you gonna do? I
works
don't get
though.
hung up on that. I don't get, me. I don't get hung up on that shit. You still look kick
Yeah,
ass. You're Steve Eric. That's who you're playing. Who gives a
yeah,
shit?
right,
Who gives a
right,
shit, dude?
exactly. But my point
I mean,
is, it
personally, my
fits.
favorite. I would wear. See this one behind me. See this right here. I would
Yeah,
wear this at a
yeah,
Kiss show. It's so
yeah,
comfortable. David Breyer made this. I'm telling you, it's fucking. It fits like a glove. It's so comfortable. I'd wear this every
yeah.
time. This is Kiss to me. That old Mike Douglas show. I love that. I love that shit. I'm sorry. I'm a sucker for it.
Oh yeah. I mean, they were lean and mean back then, man. They really were. So
But I love the big shit. Like I told you, when you play the bigger theaters, you wear the bigger costumes. You wear the unmasked or love gun.
right,
And
right,
you know me,
right,
if I
right.
had money, if I had money people out there, I know this Kiss show, I'd have the elevators, fucking everything. I really
Yeah,
would.
right. I know
Kevin
it.
knows he'd be building it.
Yeah, right. Go figure out a way to make us levitate, Kev. How are we gonna do that? Oh shit. I don't know. Yeah. But imagine
All right,
being Peter, man.
let's see if I
When
can let's see if we can hook you up. Here's Kevin at the last show, everybody. Or we can count it over. They could have put the black wall up when it got up. I can't believe we ran out of speaker space and had so much extra speakers.
running out of what?
They got to get rid of that white wall. Well, pretty black.
Oh,
Am I wrong?
yeah, yeah. Listen to that lead. Seriously, man. That's badass. Here it comes.
Let's go, everybody. From Comic Book Draw, History Art.
I love what I did there, man. I got to do more of that.
I see the mix it
Go. And the crowd goes wild. I got the bomb in too. Go for it, Mike. Man. And I command you. I love it. It's awesome.
go through blast. Like, can't hear you.
Huh. Nice. Hey, you know what?
There you go,
That's
brother.
another thing too. You and Dave pushed me. How many years did it take for you to get me to do a drum solo, man? It's something I never ever wanted to do. It's something my feeling was always like, if you can't do a worthy drum solo, you shouldn't do one. And me as a drummer, that's where my drummer thinking in my head. It's like, but it's not all about it's not all about you know the flash and don't get me wrong, it is about flash, it is about technique and stuff like that, but in the realm of what we're doing, you know the flurries that that I'm able to accomplish and the stuff like that, and the stuff that you taught me to, and you and Dave said, stop, man, point at the crowd, stand up, do it, all this other kind of stuff. Like you said, it's theatrics, man. It's theatrics. It gets the blood up. It gets the blood going. And I'm learning every time. And as short as that was, and because we were short on time, anyway, but I'm pretty happy with that. I thought that was pretty cool.
That's what I've been telling you.
Yeah,
There's nothing more fun than that. I love being on stage. I love I don't
yeah,
like being cut short. I really don't care. I'll still play. I think who
yeah.
loses? The
All
fans.
right, right, all right. I know it.
I
Boy,
really
but they
can't.
pushed that crowd. I know.
What's that?
I said they pushed that crowd out of that hall Friday night like there was a fire in the building, man. They wanted them out.
Dude, there's so many great road stories. We'd be here for another hour if I told you the
I,
shit that happened on the road. Especially
right?
14, 15 years ago was a lot different on the road than it is now. Now it's like, uh, that's a whole other subject. But man, I really
Yeah, that's
appreciate you
true.
being in the first show. I don't know where this is going from here. We'll take off. Who knows?
I hope so, man. If I could do anything to help you out with this, besides this, being your
I
guinea
think you
pig.
should be the co-host, and we'll go down and we'll
Yeah,
we'll go through tribute bands, especially the ones that are really putting a hurting on us, man. Uh,
yeah,
that's another story for another time. Saint Bat
right.
Channel, Saint Bat Time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The
Well,
Kiss Tribute World Podcast. Kevin Conrad, #1 guest. Drew for Spawn. Drew
thank you,
for Marvel,
man.
DC.
And here I am now, man, in a Kiss tribute band. How freaking cool is that, man?
Do you
That's
remember our
nice.
first conversation? Can you remember our first conversation? I go,
Uh,
are you the Kevin
I,
Conrad on the Kiss fucking Psycho Circus comics? Are you that same dude? And you go, why the hell are you in Glenville?
it's like you got to live somewhere, buddy. You know.
I knocked
But
on your door for 10 minutes knocking. Like, dude, we answered a fucking door.
yeah, right. How about we probably should just before we end this thing too? It's like we did start that we kind of got um, kind of derailed ourselves, but when you asked about how it came to be that I was in this tribute band and stuff, you did bring up the Ace Frehley, the Ace Frehley band, Rock Soldiers, right? And I was drumming for that for you guys, and you were doing a non-makeup thing on the side with Dave, who I had not met at that point, right? And that was all Kiss. That was Kiss non-makeup, and I'm in this Ace Frehley thing with you, and busting my ass trying to learn all those Anton Zvig tunes, right? And you know, and well, we had like about 18 songs under our belt, and and the Ace thing, and you call me up, and you go, yo, yeah, so, yeah, what's up? He goes, hey man, if you had a choice, this is just so the audience when you listen to this, this is Vinny, the mastermind, the leader, like the big guy with the big green head and the Hulk, he's able to manipulate people. Like he figures out ways how to ease people into roles or ease to like. If you had your choice, would you rather be in an Ace tribute band or a Kiss tribute band? Playing all Kiss material. And I'm like, well, man, you know, I did bust my ass to learn all this Ace stuff, but I mean, the truth is, yeah, I'd rather be in a Kiss, I can play a lot of the Kiss tunes that the Ace band's not going to be doing, and
Dude,
welcome.
the first incarnation of that Ace band with Jay was with Greg Nash on drums and Jimmy
Yeah,
Tudor, who I think is probably one of the greatest Eddie Van Halen lookalikes and playalikes I ever saw in my life. But he was
right.
playing guitar, and it just didn't
Yeah,
sell because it's you're not going to fill any place with just Ace Frehley shit. And even if you play Kiss stuff like we were doing, and I was singing the Gene parts, it
right,
just wasn't
right.
selling. And Jay couldn't play the beginning of "Keep Your Hands to Yourself" when
Well,
he was in FTA in our cover band. Like, dude, he's a lead guitar player. Most lead guitar players, for some reason, their rhythm is I don't know. But
yeah, well,
yeah,
I get that, man. But what I was getting at is you as the master manipulator. That's where I was going with all this, because even then, I mean, look at what comes
that you know
together.
what I'm gonna tell you that comes from me being a manager and a coach in baseball because you have
Yeah,
to think
yeah,
that way.
right.
I don't
Well,
know.
I get it.
I don't ever consider it manipulation. I consider it you're running a team. Somebody has to drive the bus of this thing because if you rely on guys like who we're talking about, who did absolutely nothing, and
Uh-huh.
then give you shit, it's these tribute guys
Right.
know what I'm talking about.
Well, I say that master manipulator with trust me with all the love in my heart, man, because I love you, man, and I know where you're coming from, but full circle. That period of time, you wanted me to play drums for the non-makeup thing. Dave was playing Paul in the non-makeup thing, and you wanted him to play drums in the Ace thing. So Dave was doing Paul and the non-makeup, doing the
I
drums
consider
in
myself
the Ace thing.
consider myself like a way a Broadway producer would think.
Right. Right.
I seen the talent. Dave is such a talented drummer,
Yeah, he
and
is.
he plays
There's no
Peter
doubt.
Chris Slang style. Yeah,
Spot
and
on.
he
Spot on.
he
Yep.
but yeah, and I thought
Yep.
and I think he's a great non-makeup Paul Stanley.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely,
So
definitely.
it's just weird. And now that man who took my role as a drummer in the Ace Band is now our Peter in history. He moved over laterally from Paul in history to Peter in history. And everybody, that's another question that people ask me all the time. Yeah, it's like, how do you really feel about having a Peter in the band now too? And you're like only doing half the show. And it's like, look, I miss playing the entire show, but how can I argue with that? It's a brilliant freaking idea. Absolutely brilliant idea. There's not another tribute band out there that I know of anyway. I don't know if you do, that has both a Peter and an Eric splitting a show. You know what I mean? And
You
I
got
wouldn't
to
have it. I wouldn't have it any other way, Ben, at this point. And I wouldn't want to do it with anybody. But honestly, I would not want to do it with anybody but Dave. You know, um, obviously stuff happens. So we see the roster of the band. What happens with the band with
you
somebody
got it.
came.
History world, what a lot of people don't understand is that
Yeah,
it's an army, and if one of us is needed,
right,
and we can
right,
get you out to the gig, like Mike. I said, Mike, I'll fly you out here. Mike goes, dude, I'll drive. I'd rather have the money because I told him you can drive out here, and I'll give you the money. And it's all yours,
right,
and I'll pay
right,
you for your whatever gas it is.
right.
And he
Yeah,
do what I do. That's perfect.
yeah, yeah.
I
That was
need
awesome. Yeah, Mike's
guys
great.
like like dude. If the world had more mics, this would be a better place.
Right.
But
Hey, you should say that about me, man.
I play with so many tribute guys that you know
Yeah,
there's some great
yeah,
songs.
yeah. That's another thing
All right,
too, man. Is like being in this band with you, Vinny, and and with the constants have been me and you for the last 4 years. And even David's left for a bit, and then and now thankfully he's back. But the first year we had 5 Ace Frehley's, right? And I was like, my head was spinning. My head was spinning. It was 5 different shows. It was 5 different Ace Frehley's. And it was like, what the hell, man? But now I see, it's the way it is. And now we got, I've got to play with some top tier Kiss tribute. Aside from you and aside from the local guys, top tier tribute artists have come into this band while I'm in this band playing, and I'm like, holy shit. Then the realization starts to happen is like, this is, me and we go to practice every week, we do the show, you and I, we all hang out, and have fun, like we're like brothers. But the realization is, it's just kind of like big business, man. This is some serious business in that sense. And we're bringing in, we got Stata, one of the OGs. We've got Mike, another OG, come in,
we get to play with
and
Jeff. We get to play with Jeff from Buffalo.
John from
Jeff,
Buffalo. He was dynamite,
I'm
dynamite
sorry,
player. Yeah,
John. It's John Jeffrey,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I knew
John
he was
Jeffrey. I can see why you did that.
John
Yeah,
Jeffrey, my
dyslexic. You're dyslexic, right? And
John. I only went to school in
and
fifth grade, pretty much.
and again, and Luke and Pat, from the Kiss, Kiss Alive, New York City, and Alive 75. It's like, it's insane, man. It's just insane. It's like, and we all come together, and 90%, 95% of the time, it's seamless. You know, with
Dude, you
with
can't,
little or no rehearsal with the guys.
yeah.
Yeah,
Luke, you can't find the gift of gab. You either have it or you don't. And I always say
Yeah.
that to anybody that wants to Paul Stanley, you have to have that gift of gab. And you have to ad lib. You know, he does it so well. He turned an hour 20, 30 show into 2 hours. And I don't know how he does it, but I love it because you get to sit in front of the fan, your makeup's drying off, you got water.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
When I'm playing Gene, I literally want the shit to look like alive too. But
Right.
when I'm playing
Right.
Ace, I don't want my makeup running, you know?
No, I know. I know it. I hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
It's
nothing better. I don't care what anybody says. That show was so much fun. The people doing
it
this and
really
they're doing
was.
it right. That's the one.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are really making a mockery of stuff, which I'm going into in the next episode.
Right. It might be. Yeah. It might be a two-parter.
I want to get that guy from Kiss Wednesday. What's his name? He's a podcaster.
This
I'll
Wednesday.
figure out his name, but I wanna have him on because he's pretty good. I love his Kiss Wednesdays, where he takes the whole day out or his whole video out just for Kiss, some kind of Kiss stuff.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. Yeah, but yeah, man,
Um,
where everything works, you know.
Plaster Caster, I think his channel's called Plaster Caster. I'll
I'm
look
not
it up and
familiar with him.
I'll find out for
Yeah.
you because we don't want to have no
Yeah.
dead air on here over here. No dead air.
No dead air. Yeah.
Evan should be having one of those motor oil drinks in his hand right now, STP or Pennzoil or
Can you
Exxon.
can you can you
What do you
read that? Can you read it?
got? I can't even pronounce it, let alone spell it. Yo,
Tainted Senorita Coffee Stout. So
the champagne of beers. See, you can't go
well,
wrong. It's cheap.
hey buddy, cheers to you, man, right there. Cheers to you. Thank you for inviting me into this band. This has been a ride for the last 4 years. And you know, I'm happy to be here, man. I'm loving it. You know, it's a lot of work, you know, and I pay for it, you know, with my arthritis, my hands and shit like that the next day or two, but it's all
Well,
good. Yeah.
I'm not gonna let you retire so easily.
You know, all right.
All
I hear you.
right,
I
man.
hear
Thanks,
you.
brother. Take care.
All right, man. Love you, brother.
Love you, brother.
All right,
Scotty.
we'll see.
Take care, man.
Yeah, here's my bro. Yeah.
That's it, man.